Second.
That was moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. Item 5 under Public Works, item 5A, 5F, I should say, a recommendation to approve a resolution to waive the formal bid procedure and approve the ordering of gasoline and diesel fuel on an as-needed basis for fiscal year 2022-2023. Good evening.
Good evening. As in previous years, staff is requesting to spot buy fuel for shipments on an as-needed basis. Our practice has been to request quotes from up to 6 different vendors by 8 a.m. for same-day shipments. Lowest quotation is awarded the quote for later that day delivery. Like I said, our procurement techs will reach out to 6 different vendors. We typically receive 3 to 5 responses on a daily basis when we do this. The structure produces competitive pricing while allowing the city to get the lowest fuel prices while adjusting for the market volatility.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
I do have a question, just curiosity. Since this budget year is almost over, are we pretty much in line with what we budgeted last year? Or are we a little short because of what's happening?
Yeah, I can say from a public services standpoint, it's a big user because of snow plowing. We're a little lower than previous years.
Okay, good.
Okay. Good.
So you pretty much anticipated the rise in price in this budget, correct?
Well,
I mean,
honestly,
you can only guess, I
yeah,
guess.
so our finance department does the guesstimation on that, and we're just kind of...
So they took that into account, right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the committee?
Move for approval?
Second. That was moved by Councilmember Payleitner and seconded by Councilmember Lencioni. Please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Aye. Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. That passes 8-0. Item 5G, a recommendation to approve a resolution to waive the formal bid procedure and allow spot buying of cable and transformers on an as-needed basis for fiscal year 2022-23.
Similar to fuel, the market price for metals fluctuates dramatically in short time periods, which makes securing pricing very difficult for a long duration of time. Spot buying these items allows our inventory control division to secure competitive pricing on an as-needed basis. It's our practice to solicit from a minimum of 5 different companies, solicit quotes from 5 different companies, and best quote wins.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Wirball, seconded by Councilmember Petrella. Please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you. That passes 8-0. Item 5H, a recommendation to approve a resolution to waive the formal bid procedure and accept the blanket quote from Annixter, Inc. for Okanite Cable for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Yes, our electric division has standardized its distribution cable throughout the city to the Okanite brand due to its proven reliability as well as the operational nuances of the cable itself. Okanite is distributed locally through Annixter of Glenview, Illinois. Annixter has submitted a blanket quote for stock aluminum and copper cable for fiscal year 23, subject to metal escalation, de-escalation at the time of shipment.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Move for approval.
Second.
That was moved by Councilmember Petrella and seconded by Councilmember Wirball. Please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Thank you. That passes 8-0. Item 5I, a recommendation to approve a resolution to award a request for proposal for a 3-year service agreement for valve exercise and leak detection.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
This item is for the city's annual valve exercising and leak detection for the city's water system. It includes the exercising of approximately 1/3 of the city's valves, almost 1,300 valves this year, and then leak detection for close to 230 40 miles of water main. It also includes the pinpointing of water main leaks. When we experience a water main leak that we can't isolate from above ground, we bring a leak locator out to pinpoint that location so we know where to dig. M.E. Simpson Company was the actually low and only bidder for this RFP. Well, the city has engaged with M.E. Simpson in the past successfully. They had the annual leak detection and valve exercising from 2010 and 2012, and so we're not concerned about their performance at all. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
How come the previous company didn't bid? Do you know why, or?
So as I understand it, we typically use a company out of Lombard, and they're going through some restructuring.
Okay.
Someone's buying them, from what I understand.
Oh, okay.
And so they're focusing on a little bit of different type of work. Normally in the past, we almost exclusively use them.
Right.
You've probably seen them around. They have the black trucks with the gold lettering. Yeah. And so they're going through a little bit of change.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
Okay, that was moved by Alderman Orball and Councilmember St.Charles, seconded by. Please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes 8-0. The last item for number 5 is 5J, a recommendation to approve a resolution to authorize the purchase of vehicles and equipment budgeted in fiscal year 23 and the sale or trade of corresponding vehicles to be replaced.
So that is intentionally kind of open-ended. It's been widely publicized, the supply chain issues and how they've affected our automotive industry. The city's not been immune to these supply chain issues. We're actually still waiting on a series of vehicles that this committee approved last April. So looking at this upcoming fiscal year, the situation is equally, if not more bleak, because last year manufacturers were still taking orders. We were still able to put the orders in, and then they would get kind of hung up in the manufacturer and upfitter chain. Right now, for a bunch of our vehicles that we're targeting, you can't even place orders, so we're kind of limited to what's on dealerships' lots or waiting till they do open up these ordering again, which for Super Duty trucks, the latest rumors I'm hearing could be December this year, first quarter next year, which would put us out maybe a year from there based on the current lead times we're seeing. So while our fleet has been standardized on Fords, we're also looking at alternative makes and models, trying to get creative to figure out what we can get in and how we can keep the fleet rolling. There have been a few instances where we've identified favorable pricing for vehicles on dealership lots, but we've kind of had the vehicle sold out from underneath us, even when we offered to put a deposit down. So that's why I'm kind of trying to get creative here. So we're requesting a preemptive authorization to purchase the vehicles and equipment budgeted for fiscal year 2023 up to the budgeted amounts. So we typically bring each vehicle on a individual basis for your approval. This time I'm kind of looking for the blanket to be able to go out and pull the trigger as we can identify them. The current climate is kind of pitting us against other municipalities, the private sector, as well as individual consumers. So we're just trying to be flexible and pivot with the situation.
Thank you. Paul?
How are you doing, I mean, how are the assets that you're making do with holding up?
I have a couple of them that are currently downed and operable, sitting at Public Works right now, but for the most part, we've been getting everything limping along. We're anticipating the vehicles that were approved last April by midsummer. June, July is the latest target. The snowplows that we were promised by last November, we're also hoping to have by July, or at least before it snows again, next January. I'm going to say January.
This totally makes sense. I know, given the current environment, I know there were some, Chief could attest to this, the ambulances, we had the same issue with purchasing those for the ambulance, TCA rather. But anyway, do we need to put a time limit on this? When will we go back to the typical procurement?
Only asking for this fiscal year.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, in FY22, okay.
Right.
Got it.
I'm hoping by doing that and kind of keeping it open-ended, if we can recognize some cost savings on one vehicle, knowing full well that we're going to have to pay more for others, that we can kind of balance the budget that way.
I'm fine with this. It makes sense with everything that's going on. I'm just curious, are you able to get anything locally from our local dealers, or do you have to kind of branch out to different areas?
We're trying. We've been in contact with all the local dealers, keeping updates on their current inventory, working with Bob Jackson, Elburn, Hawk locally, just all of our normal suppliers.
Okay.
Really, and including former contractors like Morrow Brothers down in Greenfield, Illinois, who's held the contract for squad cars for the last couple of years. They've been working with us also. So we got a line in a couple of squad cars. Don't see any police reps here. That would be new news to them. That is a hot development.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'm sorry, Rich.
One more. Now, this is for this year, for these specific vehicles. If you had a machinery or equipment that you needed that is not on this list, would it come before us again?
Yes.
Okay, so this is strictly for these vehicles?
Yes.
You can't pick and choose, oh, I need to do this when it's not on the list?
No.
Okay, just clarifying.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Approval.
Second.
That was moved by Paul and seconded by Dave. Please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Thank you. That passes 8-0. Item 6 is public comments. Item 7, additional items from the mayor or the city council members or staff. And there's no executive session, correct? With that said, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Peter, you nailed it. 7:12.
No, I said 7:12. He said 7:07. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you said somebody said 7:12.
Yeah, we both went, yeah.